Hey, what's up, you greasy, unwashed fucks? I'm back again to bring you another video, and this is a topic that I've been super excited to talk about, and I bet you can't guess what's going on here. So, you've read the title. I got to see a really awesome tour it was a couple weeks ago, and it was something I wanted to talk about just to give a indication of how these bands are, talk about my experience, and share it with you guys in case you have also seen this tour. So, I got to see Born of Osiris on tour with Shadow of Intent, Signs of the Swarm, and Sentinels. There was also a local band that I cannot for the life of me remember off the top of my head. What Drives the Week, I believe their name is. It was an awesome concert. Like, it was actually phenomenal. The energy, the crowd was just very into it. It was a venue about the capacity of about 500 to 600, and it was pretty much plumb full. There were people drinking, partying, having fun. It was just an awesome environment. There was a raging pit. There really wasn't many injuries or anyone going too far, and you could tell the bands really were into it as well, because obviously the bands are not going to be as into it unless the crowd is into it. So I just want to give sort of a little bit of information about the bands that I saw and what my opinion was of them. I'm not going to be doing any sort of ranking or anything, but the first band to come out was Sentinels, and Sentinels had a really good sound. I think that they fit into the lineup very well. They were more of a straight-bred metalcore band as opposed to the sort of slam of Signs of the Swarm and the deathcore of Shadow of Intent and the progressive metalcore Born of Osiris. So it was sort of cool to see that trajectory, I guess. Like, it was pretty cool. Sentinels' energy was what got me. They just had a very high-octane energy, and if you can imagine what just sort of a stereotypical metalcore show should be, it was very moshy. The vocalist was really getting into it a lot, doing a lot of call-outs, opening up the pit. It was very awesome to see people starting to get into it. That's when the pit started to open up, and while it wasn't as raging as it would be for some of the later bands, Sentinels really did have an awesome set list and were very great live. Specifically, the guitar work was just so chuggy and so distorted, had a great ring to it, had a great timbre to it. Their breakdowns didn't fail to get people like very hyped up, just breakdown after breakdown after breakdown. It was exactly what you would imagine from a metalcore band, and it was pretty damn cool. Signs of the Swarm came up next, and holy fucking shit. They got the place moshing more than Born of Osiris, more than Shadow of Intent, more than Sentinels probably combined. Signs of the Swarm was so insane, and it makes sense because they were the heaviest band there that day. They were so slamming, they were so distorted and heavy, and where my position was is I could reach out and touch the stage. I was right up against the bar, I was up against a wall. Like, I literally probably could have reached out and like grabbed a guitarist's leg if I wanted to. It was pretty insane. Signs of the Swarm, so heavy, an amazing set list. They were so tight, so fast, so just frenzied and enraged. You genuinely don't think that some of these vocalists are going to be able to pull off the same vocals live. That happens a lot in metal, where their vocals don't necessarily match up to what they are usually doing on records, because you get a lot of editing, or just in studios you have a lot more freedom to do retakes, and these vocals can be very demanding, and especially when you're on tour month after month after month, which the Angel or Alien tour has been going on for a while now, you're going to have some wear and tear on your vocals. But not for Signs of the Swarm. Every member brought their all, and the vocalist was just absolutely going buck-ass wild, holding these deep, guttural, intense growls for 10, 15, 20 seconds, shrieks, pig squeals, just so many different types of vocals, tunnel throat technique. It was insane to see live. This was a vocalist that genuinely knew how to perfect a craft and was bringing it the entire time. Now, obviously, I think it's partially due to the fact the audience was very much into it, and that adds a key component, because if you're not getting the audience excited, it's not going to be as big. And they were sort of feeding off that, because the vocalist just kept calling out, circle the pit, get the pit opened up, and people were going so insane. On some of the breakdowns, the whole bar, I felt like, was going to come fucking loose and hit me, because people were just grabbed onto it, clasping like lobsters, and rocking it so damn hard. It felt like the bars were about to just pop right off, and the whole barricade was going to come down. There were people trying to climb on it. There were just people going absolutely insane. They had this awesome light show. They kept making the lights go dark and up, so it just had this sort of strobe effect to it and glitch effect to it, and they didn't stop. Once they started, their set list was just start to finish so high energy, no stoppages, no hiccups. They were just tight as all hell. I cannot say enough good things about Signs of the Swarm. They were just insane. Then Shadow of Intent came next, and Shadow of Intent, pretty much what you would imagine they would sound like live. They were very technically proficient, and they had just an awesome sort of technolized, mechanical, tech death influenced deathcore sound. Same with the breakdowns. They were pretty much exactly like what you would think they'd sound like live. Comparatively speaking to their records, I think that hearing it live, it makes it seem a lot more organic, makes it seem a lot more real and vivid, because when you get hyper-technical deathcore bands or metalcore bands or tech death bands, usually you will feel like it maybe is a little manufactured, a little too well produced, but it felt very raw live, and they pulled it off very well. It blends together very well. They had an awesome set list that worked well together. Vocalist was on point. They also felt like a well-oiled machine. They didn't get the crowd as pumped up. I feel like there were a decent amount of people there, but it was obvious that a lot of people were there for Signs of the Swarm and Born of Osiris, and as a result of that, the crowd weren't as involved with Shadow of Intent as the other bands. Same with Sentinels, and the mosh pit weren't as big, and they weren't really interacting with the crowd as much. If anything, I think Shadow of Intent was the band that interacted with the audience the least. Weren't really stopping to talk, weren't really stopping to get the crowd hyped, weren't really stopping for anything. They were just start to finish pretty damn good. Like, they were just consistent. And then the band I was most excited to see, because if anyone has followed this channel for years, they are one of my favorite bands. They've always been one of my favorite bands, and that is Born of Osiris. And wow, they are so tight live. They are so well made live. They just have such a great energy. They seem so professional, which makes sense because they were the biggest band there. So for a band that's been around the song, you would expect that. And the funny part is, I think Born of Osiris was literally at that venue back in like 2004, I believe. So that is quite insane that it's been that long since they've been back. It was like 2004, 2006. It was so damn early on. Born of Osiris, super well orchestrated live. They had a great energy to them. Vocalist was really into it. It was cool to see the keyboard player come in, because most of the other bands, they didn't really have any extras. They didn't have electronics. They didn't have any sort of differences. So having the synths brought into the fold was just really awesome to see. Vocals were fantastic live. You had the keyboardist and the lead vocalist swapping in and out. Lee was absolutely insane live. The solos and the shredding was awesome. They were swapping out guitars based on the tracks and tuning it to just really fit the mood, and they had their own instruments, they had their own setup, and the other bands were basically playing with the same setups, but Born of Osiris just had this air and aura of just commanding the audience. They ended up receiving an encore, and they played Machine, which I was so excited for, because that's one of my favorite Born of Osiris songs. I think that just from start to finish, they kept the audience so on their toes. It was the most that I had ever gotten into a set list. I was just so damn into it. My neck was hurting for like a week straight. And the thing about Born of Osiris is, I think the one complaint I can say, and this is a stretch, I wasn't a big fan of some of these song choices. Obviously, they played a lot from Angel or Alien, which is perfectly understandable. It's their newest record. Love a lot of the tracks there. But I felt like a lot of their most popular songs were just completely left to the wayside. I was shocked. There was no Follow the Signs. They did not play Follow the Signs. They played Divergency, and they only played Machine because it was an encore. They weren't going to play Machine. So if they didn't get an encore, they weren't going to play Machine, and they didn't play Follow the Signs. And I think those are two staples that everyone knows Follow the Signs. If you know Born of Osiris, you either know Divergency, you know Machine, or you know Follow the Signs. And that was a track I really would have loved to see. So I think sort of the track listing was all over the place. I appreciate that they paid homage to some of their older records and brought some of their older tracks into the fold. It was cool to see Bow Down. That was really awesome. But for the most part, it was newer tracks. But they definitely did pay some mind to showing off some of their older records. That was really awesome. And if it goes to show how much it's like my favorite Born of Osiris record, arguably, like I literally got the Discovery on CD. And one really cool thing that happened is at the end of the set, they tossed out 2 drumsticks. They played with like 10, but they only tossed out 2. And I actually ended up getting a Born of Osiris drumstick, and I can thank my badass dad for doing that, because some dude tried to take it out of his hands and he was basically willing to have a knockdown fist fight for it, because for context, this was basically a birthday gift, because Born of Osiris literally came here 5 days before my birthday, so it was like a awesome thing. And so got this really awesome Born of Osiris drumstick, which this is an awesome addition to my collection, something I'm super excited to have in my collection. But overall, just such a great high-energy show, and if you guys get the chance to see any of these bands live, or the Angel or Alien tour, I highly suggest it with every fiber of my being, and that's not just a bias. I really did love this tour, really loved seeing it, and highly suggest it to anyone that is a fan of any of these bands, or just want a really awesome, high-octane metalcore and deathcore show. Can't recommend it enough. But I turn this over to you guys. Have you seen any of these bands live? Have you wanted to see this tour? Or who would you like to see from this lineup the best? Be sure to let me know down in the comment section below. I cannot wait to hear it. Like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to join the review family today, and smash that notification bell to be notified of my future uploads. You know who it is, my name is Jay Morris, the Review Guy, and I'm signing off saying farewell.